Hello, I'm Paul Dowding. Today's distributed ledger technology due diligence question of the day is performance. Now, performance comes in three main categories: scalability, capacity throughput, and latency. So in this video, I'm going to actually look at what the problems are with the current major designs on these issues and actually how they admit it in their white papers. And lastly, I'll discuss the requirements for overcoming these limitations and how you get a scalable, near real-time, high-capacity distributed ledger. When we look at the headlines for blockchain implementations, this is what we see: some new use case with new and improved with added blockchain and a consensus algorithm to boot. And it's coming soon, any day now. But they normally don't get beyond proof of concept or a very, very limited implementation. And this is primarily because of performance. The question is why is this so? The problem is that the current major designs for blockchains or distributed ledger technology implementations all rely on Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus in one form or the other. And that has several limitations, and I'll explain why. With voting in a network, it's a multi-step, multi-person process where parties initiate and agree transactions, then the network votes and organizes the blocks, and then the other parties then have to validate those blocks and update them to their ledger. So you can see in this multi-step, multi-person process, there's obviously latency in the time it takes to go from one end to the other. The capacity throughput limitations are because of all the time it takes to vote, broadcast them, and other people to collect and count them as well. And then scalability has two issues. One, the current blockchains require you to keep the entire ledger history in active memory, so that's only getting bigger and is ultimately unsustainable. Then the other issue is that in voting in a network, the amount of votes to be counted expand exponentially with an increase in the number of nodes. Now, that all may make sense, but you don't have to believe me. The current major designs admit as much in their own white papers. From R3, we make a variety of choices and trade-offs that affect and ensure scalability. As most of the initial intended use cases do not involve very high levels of traffic, the reference implementation is not heavily optimized. From Ethereum platform review, scalability is a key outstanding question for distributed ledger solutions in the capital markets. And from Hyperledger, Fabric is a complex distributed system. Its performance depends on many parameters. Therefore, in-depth performance evaluation of Fabric is postponed to future work. So the various solutions, in their attempt to solve these problems, create what they call a main or master chain, and then have offshoots that are referred to as lightning networks, shards, clusters, side chains, or channels, depending on your solution of choice. The problem with this, though, is that if you have to break something up to try and make it scale, aren't you by definition admitting that it can't scale? This also introduces other problems with respect to these different sectors of the ledger being able to communicate with each other or transact with each other. And all of these issues are again admitted in the white papers. From R3 Corda, it is possible to increase scalability by bringing online additional notary clusters. However, additional transactions to move states from one notary to another would negate the benefit. From Ethereum's Mauve paper, we start off with describing an algorithm, to a limited extent, the proviso being a 24-hour delay for cross-shard messages. And finally, Hyperledger. Channels can be used to partition the state of the blockchain network, but consensus across channels is not coordinated, and the total order of transactions in each channel is separate from the others. So there you have it, the self-admitted limitations of what is Byzantine fault tolerance consensus across all the major solutions. So what is the solution then? Well, you can't fix the current designs, they're provably fundamentally flawed. However, there is a different concept to consider. Whenever you join a new distributed ledger network, you're allowed to download the entire history of the protocol, and you can validate that entire history on your own. You don't need to go back to get votes on it. It's all proven within the hashlink records. Now, there's actually proven research from data science that says the properties of the history of the blockchain allow that to be the case. However, the next set of transactions forming the next block require the consensus vote to ensure that they are valid and correct and agreed to by the network. Now, what if you could give the next transactions those same data science proven properties that the history has? Therefore, you'd be able to validate the network on a transaction by transaction basis without the need for consensus. And that's the fundamental aspect of our design at L4S. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed the video and you consider a review of all aspects of performance for any distributed ledger technology or blockchain solution that you're considering. Thank you for watching. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you.